Hi and welcome to this new video. This time I will show you how to use Delta Lake in the context of a unified data management patterns platform. So if you want to know more about this platform and these different patterns, I invite you to the article which is linked in the description of this video. And in this video I will show you 4 different patterns that can be implemented with Delta Lake, so with a single data storage format. And I will start with this first pattern, which is the ACID guarantee. And to illustrate it, I will first try to write some JSON files with Apache Spark, and I will do it twice. The first time you will see this at this place, the write will be successful. After that, the second one will fail because I introduced an explicit regression in the code with this runtime exception. After that, I will do the same exercise, but this time with Delta Lake, and you will see that the data which is exposed to the users or to the downstream consumers is different in both cases due to this ACID guarantee brought by Delta Lake. So let me run the code in the debug mode first. And I will also open the terminal to show the files that are written. Okay, so as you can see, we reached the first breakpoint, and you can see that we have correctly generated some files. So now let's move on and see what happens after the second operation, which is quite the same because it uses the same input, the same save mode and the same format. But as you can see, because of this runtime exception, we have nothing here, so the data is lost. What will happen with Delta Lake? So with Delta Lake or any ACID compliant file storage format, you can see that the first execution executed the data correctly, exactly like the previous one. So we have 5 files and the delta log commit marker. And what happens if we move forward and introduce some regression? So if you compare the data set, we didn't lose the data because we have still the same generated files like in the previous execution, but you can see that we also have some extra generated files. But no worries, as you can also see here, we have still one commit marker, which means obviously that this partially valid data will not be exposed to the consumer, and that's something you can see just here. So that was the first pattern. Let's see now the second one, and the second pattern is the change data capture. So the streaming applied on some, let's call it batch data sources like relational databases, data warehouses, or as here in Delta Lake. So I will first start the producer that will generate one row every 2 seconds, and later I will start the consumer. And I will just check whether I have some data generated. And yes, you can see that we have our first files. So let's start this change data capture consumer to see that this data which is generated by the producer is correctly streamed by the consumer. But please notice that this feature is not a pure Delta Lake feature, because you can also use it with any other file format supported by Apache Spark, like JSON, like text, CSV, and many others. But the good point brought by Delta Lake is this ACID guarantee, so the guarantee that you will always consume a fully valid and fully committed output. So you can see that we have our data which is displayed in the console by our consumer. So I will stop both of them right now and show you another operation which can be achieved, which can be performed by Delta Lake, and which is called the in-place changes that you certainly know from a small data storage like relational databases or maybe in the context of web application. And here you can see that my code is very straightforward. I'm writing some data as Delta in some output directory. Later, I'm loading it as a table just to use this more SQL-friendly expressions to delete the rows greater than 6 and to update the rows lower than 3. So I will run the code and show you what is displayed in the console, in this console reader. So as you can see, in the first part of the operation, we correctly generated the input data. And in the second part of the operation, we correctly first removed all rows greater than 6 and also updated the first 2 rows. Let's check now the last operation, which will manipulate the schemas. And globally, it's another characteristic of the data management patterns, which can be implemented with Delta Lake format. So here I will start by generating some data as usual, and later I will create it as a Delta table. Just after that, I will do the first apparently invalid thing, so I will add a new column, and you will see that in the demo. But if you don't specify the merge schema option, adding a new column is not allowed, is not permitted by Delta Lake. So later I will add this new option, and thanks to this option I will be able to modify the schema with this extra column called value multiplied by 2. After that I will do another schema management, schema operation, and in this operation I will try to write a value as a string. And just to recall, the value in the initial schema is an integer. And you will see that this operation is also not permitted unless we specify the override schema option. So let me run the code and show you what happens. Okay, so you can see that we have our first printing, and here we can already see the input schema, which is composed of an integer and a string. Later we are trying to perform some invalid operation, and Delta Lake explicitly notifies us about the issue and about the solution, so about the use of this merge schema option. Later on you can see that we done this operation with this merge schema option, and it executed successfully, because you can see that we have a new field just here. And later we are doing the second invalid operation, this time by using the different type for a column already present in the schema, and this time to fix it we will have to use the override schema option, which by the way is it's a costly operation because it overwrites the data. And globally, that's all patterns I wanted to share with you about all the unified data management patterns that can be implemented with Delta Lake. And if you want to discover more patterns from this category, I invite you to the article which is linked in the description of this video. It was Bartosz Konieczny from waitingforcode.com. Thanks for watching.